Now, for more perspective on UK-Africa relations, Mark Napier, Director of Financial Sector Deepening Africa, joins me live via Skype from Nairobi. Good evening, Mr. Napier.
Good evening.
Now, Teresa is saying she wants to boost this trade relationship between Africa and the UK and become perhaps bigger than even the United States and perhaps the European Union. How can she possibly do that?
Well, there's no harm in trying and setting yourself some proper ambitions. I think the reality is that there's a great deal still to go for in Africa, whether you're American, whether you're a UK company. Part of the problem, though, is that the investment environment in Africa is very often suboptimal. And what we need to do collectively is to work together to improve the investment environment that benefits UK companies as well as US companies or anybody else who wants to invest in Africa. And I think what was exciting about what Theresa May was saying is that there's an opportunity in a way to reset the relationship between the sort of larger Western powers and Africa and to put it on the basis of mutual interest. And that, I think, is in many ways what the African countries want to see. They don't want to be patronized, as President Kenyatta was saying in his BBC interview. They want to have the opportunity to trade and to be part of a global family. But in order to do that, you need to have the kind of operating infrastructure in Africa that allows investors to come in and work fruitfully.
Now, let's face it, is the UK trying to catch up with China? You know, China's big in Africa, is big right there in Kenya. What's going on?
Well, not catch up. I think we obviously do things very, very differently. I mean, we don't have the sort of funds that the Chinese government would put to work here. What we do have, though, is an enormous hinterland of financial sector experience, and we can bring that to bear. And my world is about financial sector development in order to encourage the investment to take place. So the vision that I think the Prime Minister was really trying to communicate is to say it's not for governments to step in and provide money. And in reality, that's so not going to happen in the future with governments in many parts of the world, having many other sort of priorities which they need to address. Mm-hmm. It's much cleverer to use the sort of technical expertise that we have with a little bit of capital for sure, but to use the technical expertise that we have to crowd in the private sector, which has far more funding at its disposal than governments could ever hope to put on the table. Now, so it's a different kind of concept, yes, but one I think that is potentially very powerful.
Now, we know Britain has historical ties with some of the African countries, like Kenya, for example. What do you think was missed? What are some of the opportunities missed that an organization like yours may want to bring to the attention of the British government?
Well, a critical issue, of course, is that Africa has a very fast growing and large population. And so if you dial forward 5, 10, 15 years, that's a very large market that if the development trajectory pans out, there are large numbers of people who are going to be coming on grid from an economic sense. And so from a retail banking point of view, that's a great opportunity for retail investors who are wanting to get into the retail banking space. But I think what's exciting, a lot of people in the financial sector field at the moment is the technology opportunities or technology-led opportunities. And I think there is an opportunity to bring disruptive innovation to bear in Africa's financial markets, which I think have been dominated for quite some time by incumbents who have perhaps grown used to relatively easy opportunities. And so there is an opportunity with new technology and with good investment support for new providers to come in and really make a difference and do things differently.
Well, Mr. Napier, we appreciate your insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Mark Napier, who's the Director of Financial Sector Deepening Africa. Well, for years, the U.S. and South Africa